All right, welcome back. So today we are still on the Mojave. So I've been working on this thing, making some changes. Last time we did the broken rear body mount and we fixed the battery strap, and I was going to make some suspension changes. Now what I found on this is that the chassis seems to be leaning. So I definitely need to lower the front of this thing. So what I did was I ended up replacing the sway bar. I also set the droop screws so that the lower control arm is level and even on both sides. What I did find is that this standoff on the left front was bent up. So that was causing the RC not to sit straight. So I went ahead and straightened out the standoff. If you don't know, these standoffs have a really small screw down the center of them, and the screw is what bends. So got that fixed and replaced off. Now both of the standoffs are where they should be. I did check the shock tower, and the shock tower seems to be okay. But I still have a lean to this corner. So I'm still working on that, but what I have is, here are the Mojave shocks. I have a set of Limitless shocks. This is a front Limitless shock. As you see, it's much shorter than this. So I'm going to end up using the rear of some Limitless shocks to install on the front of this, so that I keep my travel, stiffen up the spring, and lower the RC down. So we're going to get to installing that. I've already set the preload even on these things, because if you back these all the way off, the springs in here are loose because these are rear. Now the shock bodies are a little longer than the front, so we are using the taller ones. And then what I have is two brand new Creighton shocks. As you see, they're longer. We're going to end up using this on the rear of this RC, and we're going to get those springs out of there. I believe I have a problem with the right rear spring. It possibly could be blown out, or the standoff could be bent. There's definitely a problem on the right rear of this RC, which we're going to get into. But I figured I'd turn on the camera because I'm doing a lot more modifications than I planned, and I'm finding a lot more issues. Now this one on this left front, I was telling you guys the standoff was bent. That's because the standoff got loose. I did notice that the standoff was loose when I went to take it apart. That's how I found out I had an issue over here. Usually what happens is they get a little loose and fall off. So it's very easy to put these back on. These are probably a little lower on the springs than I would like. So hopefully I don't have to make modifications to the stock springs, because like I said, I do want to get this RC put back to where I could bash it. I just want to get it to that 100-mile-an-hour mark. So as you see, the spring is stopping it there, and it's not at the level point. So setting my droop screw, it's actually set up a little higher. So if the shock breaks, it's going to hit that droop screw. But the upper is pretty level. It is a little bit up, so it is a little bit shorter than I would like. But that's what I have to work with, so that's what we're going with. Hopefully it's not too low to the ground. Now when setting up the shocks, there is a bleed screw. Always set the bleed screw to the highest point. I've learned that they could leak if you do that. So I already swapped out the sway bar, like I was telling you guys. Now, I didn't see a difference in the sway bar as far as the thickness or the look, but I did notice it stiffened it up. So those just hold these pins, these bottom pins, into place. So I'm going to get the wheels put on, and we're going to see where our ride height is. But there we go. Yeah, we're definitely pretty low there. That is plenty of room. It is off the ground. I'm going to go ahead and stiffen these up some more. Probably max them out. So these are the rear of, like I said, of a Limitless. Limitless or Infraction. I bought a set off Jenny's a while ago. When I had a wreck, I blew out one of the shock caps on one of my Limitlesses on a bad wreck. So went ahead and fixed the shock body, and I had ordered a complete new set off Jenny's. That's why I have a set of these. That's why I figured I'd run them. There we go. See, nice and stiff. Oh yeah, that's way off the ground now. Doesn't bottom out easy. So that's actually going to work out good. I got an excellent rake to this thing. But we're really soft in the rear, so every time I go to give this thing gas, see, that's really stiff. See the bounce? See how it stops? So we're good on the front, because the front's basically, I'm trying to use the tires and the whole front suspension as weight. So when this thing, you know, accelerates and it pulls up, it's trying to lift the whole front end when it's at a rake, and that should keep the body down. How long it's going to keep it down, I don't know in the run. But yeah, that's a pretty good rake. I want to show you guys the rake of this. So as you can see, the rake to the chassis is exactly where I want it. Real stiff in the front with ground clearance, and real high in the rear, but it's too soft. But the rake is perfect. Let's see if I can grab the front clearance here. So I want to show you the ground clearance we have. As you see, the thickness of these vice grips goes under the chassis. So that's a pretty decent sized rock that we'll be able to get underneath the front of this, and it's perfect. Pushing it down, see how fast it recovers. I think that's pretty good. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and work on the rear. And we're going to make our shock change to the rear, and I'm going to set up some droop screws. And I think the droop is perfect in the rear. I don't think I have to change the droop at all in the rear, because I want it as high as possible. I also want to make sure that we didn't bend the chassis with any kind of impact on this rear bumper. So let's get into that. Go ahead and pop off these rear wheels. I'm going to get this angle to where I can get to the shocks. Let's see if these standoffs are loose. This one's tight. It's the upper. Got to loosen these screws, not removing them. We're just loosening them. Grab some blunt nose. and pull the pins, and you can see not much droop from there. So we're good there. Body mount's kind of in the way on that one. And this one too. I don't know if that means I need to move up that body mount or what. Both standoffs are straight. So I'm going to move this up out of the way so we can take a look at these rear shocks and what I'm replacing it with. And the shock bodies and shock shafts and everything are the same on these. The difference is the spring. And I'll bring this in. You can see that is really stiff compared to that. You can see the coil winding. And this has got a lot more pressure on it than this has. Check the sway bar. Not too bad. Just checking for anything loose, anything bent. Just want to make sure we're okay. Oh, that shock is really rough. Oh yeah. So we got a bent shock shaft. This shock is actually bent. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's got a slight bend to it when it's collapsed. It does go in. This one's nice and straight, but there's our problem, is that this shock right here is bent. So that's the lean I was looking for. So I'm gonna install these shocks now. I'm gonna set my preload before I install them, which we will have to make adjustments to it, but I definitely want them close. Get the little ball put in here, get this thing in to hold it. I'm going to stuff it back in there. I'm going to get a shock shaft ordered up for the one bent Mojave shock, or I can probably use these shocks and just change out the spring, and because it looks like they're identical except for the spring rate, the coil windings. This coil winding spread apart, but it's much stiffer. This is a tighter coil winding, but softer. One thing about Arrma, if you haven't noticed, is that Arrma will constantly repurpose parts. And it used to make the RCs like really affordable, even though the price point has increased quite a bit. They're still repurposing a lot of the parts, but it makes it good so that you don't have to carry a lot of parts to keep your RCs running. Because a lot of the parts for your Creighton, your Outcast, your Mojave, they all seem to be pretty much the same. Oh yeah, look at that. Much stiffer in the rear, stiff in the front. Still softer in the rear than it is the front, but I do need it to squat to get a little bit of traction. Plus we have a lot more room in the rear to stiffen this up. But that extreme rake is what I'm going for. I really want that extreme rake when it comes to this RC, because the body's going to want a parasail. There we go. Really like solid in the front, really stiff in the rear. That's really what I'm going for, with a huge rake to this RC. And now I don't have the chassis lean into this corner, because I think I had a bent shock shaft over there. I checked the flatness of the chassis was good. But after that last tumble that we had, something happened to this rear shock. So probably grabbed this wheel or something, pulled it down in the shock, or even pushed it up or hit it from the side. Something happened, something flexed. But now we got the hot racing stiffness on the back, battery tray fixed, front, which are rear Limitless shocks, stock. Fluid, everything in them are stock. These are completely stock rear Limitless shocks. So now I think I'm going to just leave this body mount. It's got a crack right there. It's not broken, but it's pretty close to it. So on the next crash, that's going to break, and then we'll replace it out. I do keep the older ones because I can use them for other things. So I'm going to get the body on, and we're going to check the height of the body. So the rear I'm pretty good, and the front I'm really good. Got a really good rake to this thing. Now I want to give a Limitless update on the giveaway. Beast Mode did an unboxing video. There's two unboxing videos up there. One has got an audio issue. So I'm going to put the link to the right one in the comment section so you guys could see that. Yeah, look how high we are in the rear. That's good. I am going to take these people out of here. I'm going to remove them completely so air can travel up through this. In case we get too high, we're going to get these guys out of there. That way air can escape. And that's it. So the rear of the body is broken on each side. I'm probably going to cut it here and cut it there, which we might as well do that now, because if not, that's going to continue to rip, and we don't need this holding air. So I hate to do it to this body, but it is what it is. The body's already cracked. There we go. Get that light bucket out of there. You can tell the problem areas because they will literally show themselves. Right to that crack. Get rid of this. That should stop this from cracking. I think we're pretty good right there. Yeah, that's a huge upgrade to the front of this. And I'm gonna have to fix this flap. Yeah, it pulled out, so I gotta get that rubber thing put back up, but that's no big deal. I don't want it catching the tire. But we're gonna give it a shot this way. Only thing I'm gonna do off camera is remove the guys, get some batteries charged up. We're gonna head back out and do another speed pass. So I'm gonna put a link in the description to the unboxing from Beast Mode. He's the #2 winner of the Arrma Limitless. Go check out the video. I did post it earlier in my community post. But I noticed that there wasn't a lot of people in there that were really wanting follow-ups on that video, have commented in there. But I'll put that in there. Huge rake, windshield. Hopefully that'll be enough, and we'll see. We can get back to the park, do some more runs, and we'll see how these changes go. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll catch you guys on my next video. Thanks for watching.